The Damned Séance Part 3. Chapter 17, The Duke's Real Pact. The room pulsed. Not with light or movement, but with memory. Thick. Heavy. Unrelenting. The walls trembled with every beat of the silence that followed the child's whisper. Say my name. Or wear it. The ghost girl, Celaine as she once was, stood still now, the violin bow loose in her fingers, her stitched mouth twitching at the seams, as if the truth inside her could no longer be held in. The journal at Alaric's feet began to bleed from its spine. Not ink. Blood. Each word on its pages ran red as if the entire book were crying out in warning. Miel knelt beside it. She etched her memories into objects, she murmured. Not just to preserve them. To anchor herself. She became more than a ghost, Alaric whispered. She became a living memory. One that could possess places. Not just places, Isla said, her voice distant. People. They all turned to her. Isla stood stiff, arms at her sides, head tilted slightly, just like Celaine's. Her eyes were still hers. But behind them, something else was looking out. She never wanted vengeance, Isla said. Not at first. She wanted justice. She wanted her name back. Her voice. Her body. A pause. She begged. And when they ignored her, she offered something else. Mirelle's eyes narrowed. What did she offer? Isla turned to the far wall. And slowly, deliberately, she pressed her hand to the wooden paneling. The surface shimmered like breath on glass. And the wall opened. Behind it, a hidden study. Dustless. Preserved. Shelves of bound books. Alchemical instruments. A desk covered in parchment and candle stubs. And in the center of the desk, a sealed box. Black wood. Brass lock. No key. The seal engraved on the lid was unmistakable. The Blackvale sigil. Isla didn't hesitate. She placed her palm on the box. It clicked. And opened. Inside. A coiled lock of hair tied with red thread. A mirror shard wrapped in velvet. A scrap of blood-stained lace. And a folded letter. Alaric reached for it. The parchment crackled, old but sharp-edged, like it remembered being opened in betrayal. He read aloud. To the Circle of 13. I offer the girl as conduit. She is marked. She hears the veil in her sleep. Her blood sings names it was never taught. I offer her silence. In exchange for my name enduring. Let her be bound. Let her be buried. But let me be remembered. Yvran Blackvale. Mirelle's breath hitched. He sacrificed her, she whispered. His own sister. He gave her up to a memory-sealing ritual, Alaric said, and took Julian's name as his own heir's legacy. The price for Evren's power was erasing Celaine. Isla stared at the box, her voice breaking. He condemned her to silence. To being forgotten. And in return, he stayed the Duke. The name Blackvale endured. A sound stirred behind them. A heartbeat. Not human. The house. They turned back toward the open bedroom, Celaine's childhood sanctuary. The child form of her was gone. And in her place, seated on the edge of the now rotted cradle, was Celaine as a grown woman. Her skin was gray, stitched down the spine, with black thread across her mouth, loose now. Eyes bright and full of grief. But in her lap she held a mirror. And in the mirror, Yvran Blackvale. Screaming. Trapped. He gave me silence. So I gave him eternity. Alaric staggered forward. She didn't just die in the house. She became it. Miel nodded grimly. And Yvran, he never escaped the pact. He's still here. Caged in the mirror that shows what we chose to forget. Celaine raised her hand. Not to strike. Not to curse, but to offer. She held the mirror out. And Isla, trembling, took it. Inside, Everon's face was warped in terror, distorted and flickering like candlelight in storm glass. He mouthed the words. "Forgive me." Isla stared. And slowly, closed the mirror. A wind tore through the study, fast and hot, like breath through a keyhole. And then, stillness. The mirror no longer glowed. Celaine was gone. The cradle turned to salt. The journal in Alaric's hands turned blank. And the hidden study began to fade. Alaric looked at Miel. "It's over." Miel shook her head. "No," she said softly. "It's finally beginning." Chapter 18, A Ritual Reversed. The study disintegrated around them, not violently, but gently, like a dream pulled away by morning light. Shelves faded. The floor softened beneath their feet. The cradle turned to ash, then salt, then nothing. When the final edge of the mirror dissolved, they stood once again in the east drawing room of Blackvale Manor. Only now, it breathed differently. Gone were the suffocating shadows, the dripping walls, the oppressive silence. In their place, a strange stillness, not peace, but a pause. A breath held. As if the house itself was deciding what to become, now that memory had been released. Alaric stood at the edge of the circle of chairs, face pale, hands trembling. His voice, still hoarse from the severance, came low. "It's not over yet. The pact was made with a name. That name was reclaimed. But the ritual itself was never undone." Miel stepped beside him. "And now that her name is free, the bond must be broken." Isla moved toward the center of the room, where the ritual flame still flickered, low, white, steady. The mirror she carried now lay dormant in her hands. The image of Eve ran, screaming and flickering in terror, was gone. All that remained in its surface was a reflection of the flame. Alaric unrolled the last page of the grimoire, drawn not in ink but in mirror blood. A countersigil, ancient and imperfect. A way to reverse a pact. "The reversal won't banish her," he said quietly. "It will only give her the choice to leave." Miel gave a nod. "That's enough. That's all anyone ever wanted for her." Together, they began the ritual again. A circle redrawn, this time not in chalk, but in iron dust and salt. Each symbol redrawn with flame-touched fingertips. Alaric bled freely from his thumb into the ash. Miel whispered forgotten verses. And Isla stood at the center, holding the dormant mirror over her heart. They chanted. What was sealed in silence? Let memory release. What was bound by betrayal? Let will unbind. Come not to serve. Come not to suffer. Come now to choose. If you would walk, walk free. If you would rest, rest whole. If you would speak, speak now. Nothing happened at first. Then the mirror in Isla's hands began to heat. Her eyes widened. It's moving. Something's inside. The surface of the mirror rippled, then cracked. But from within the glass, no scream came. Only a breath. Then a voice, not a whisper, but a song. A lullaby. Uneven. Mournful. The same melody Julian had once claimed the piano played to him in dreams. Only now they heard it clearly. It was hers. Celaine. Singing not in anger, but in grief. The flame in the circle turned blue. Then violet. Then clear. And through it, a figure emerged. Not Celaine in her stitched and haunted form. But a girl of no more than 17. Brown hair loose. Eyes uncertain. Pale hands clasped around her own reflection. She stepped into the circle, barefoot, spectral, and very still. You called me, she said. And you named me. Her eyes met Isla's. You remembered. Isla nodded, unable to speak. Celaine turned to Alaric and Miel. You drew the circle differently this time. Alaric swallowed hard. This time, we asked. Celaine smiled, soft, sad. Then I choose. She placed one hand to her chest. And with her other hand, she pressed her fingertips to the flame. A burst of wind rushed through the room, sweet, sudden, like spring air rushing through a crypt. And then, she vanished. No scream. No light. Just release. The circle went dark. The mirror in Isla's hands cracked one final time and crumbled into ash. Alaric sank to his knees. Miel closed her eyes. And Isla whispered. She's free. Then, a voice, one last time, drifted through the rafters like sunlight filtered through memory. Don't forget me. That was all I ever wanted. The manor went silent. And for the first time since they arrived, the walls did not whisper back. Chapter 19, The Room is Watching. They sat in silence long after the flame died out. The salt circle had dissolved. The mirror was gone. And the figure of Celaine, the girl at the heart of it all, had vanished like morning mist pulled from stone. But the room remained. And the room remembered. The east drawing room of Blackvale Manor had been the stage for every circle, every name spoken, every silence inflicted. Now it pulsed not with spirits, but with memory. The air felt thicker, as if something vast and unseen was holding its breath. The furniture had shifted ever so slightly, the kind of movement that couldn't be seen, only felt. The angles were wrong. The hearth seemed too far away. The piano keys gleamed in the dark, though no light touched them. And the walls watched. Alaric stood slowly, one hand pressed to his chest, as if steadying his breath. His voice was ragged but sure. She's gone, he said. But something in the manor's structure has changed. You mean the haunting? Dr. Marston asked from the corner, sweat still beading at his temple. Alaric shook his head. No. The haunting is over. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the walls. But the house is still awake. Miel moved toward the far wall, the one that once concealed the bricked-in chamber. She pressed her hand to it. It's holding the memory, she murmured. Not the spirit. The shape of what happened here is embedded in the wood, the stone, the very air. She turned to Isla. Celaine may have left. But what was done to her, what was hidden, can't be undone. Isla moved slowly to the fireplace. The portrait had fallen during the earlier ritual, but it now sat propped awkwardly against the wall. She reached out and turned it over. Her breath caught. The figures had changed again. Now, there was only one child in the painting, still in the red coat. Still seated in the same chair. But the face was blurred. Not erased. Just unfinished. And in the lower right corner, where the artist's signature would have been, new words had been scrawled in dark red paint. The room remembers. Alaric stepped closer. I've seen this before, he said. In a house outside Calais. A manor built on a family curse. When the spirit was released, the house remained shaped by what happened. Visitors who entered after felt strange dreams. Cold spots. Certain names returned in echo. Residual energy? Marston asked. No, Miel said softly. Recognition. She turned to the center of the room, where the ritual circle had once burned. This room knows us now. It's watched us open the wound. It's seen us name the dead. And it remembers who finished the ritual. Suddenly, the grandfather clock ticked once. Then again. The first sound of time since the séance began. Everyone turned toward it. The hands, once frozen at dusk, now moved. Forward. But too fast. Time was correcting itself. The flame in the hearth relit on its own, flickering calmly. The piano played a single soft note. No discord. No warning. Just a gentle acknowledgement. Miel looked to Alaric. We've given her peace, she said. But what we've inherited now is the house. He nodded. This room is no longer cursed. But it's also not clean. He turned to Isla. You're bound to it. You understand that now, don't you? Isla didn't speak at first. She stared at the portrait's blurred child. The red coat. The ambiguous face. Then she said, she gave me her name. But not to wear. To carry. To protect it. She looked up, eyes filled with something deeper than grief. Someone has to stay and remember. Or the silence will start all over again. Dr. Marston made a move for the door. This is madness. We've survived the séance. We've freed the girl. I'm not letting the room claim anyone else. He reached the threshold. And the door did not open. Not stuck. Not locked. Simply absent. Alaric approached it, hand hovering. Now it's watching us, he said softly. Deciding what comes next. Miel nodded slowly. Then we give it a choice. Just as we gave Celaine. Isla stepped into the center of the room once more, where the last flame had died. And for a moment, the shadows of all 5 chairs returned. Only shadows. Faint. Lingering. Waiting. She reached toward the place where Celaine's flame had once burned. And whispered. This story is finished. Let no one rewrite it. Let no one steal the name again. Let the room sleep now. But let it remember. The chandelier above them chimed. The fire in the hearth blinked once. And the door opened. Chapter 20, One Must Be Sacrificed. The door to the east drawing room creaked open, slowly, cautiously, like a sleeping eye blinking after a long nightmare. Beyond it, the corridor of Blackvale Manor. Not warped. Not dreamlike. Just normal. Too normal. The sconces were lit. The floorboards quiet. The scent of old wood and polished brass hung in the air like a house that had been left untouched for years, not hours. And yet, as the group approached the threshold, no one stepped through. Not Alaric. Not Miel. Not Isla. Not even Dr. Marston. Because the room hadn't let go. There's still something unfinished, Alaric said, his voice distant. I can feel it. Isla stood behind him, arms crossed tightly across her chest. We closed the ritual. Celaine is free. What else does it want? Miel turned slowly back toward the circle. The floor was bare. But the shadows of the chairs still clung faintly to the wood, like bruises left behind after trauma. And in the center, just beneath where the final flame had died, a shape. A sigil. Faint. Burned into the grain. Not a name. A number. 1. Alaric knelt beside it. His breath trembled. It's asking for a sacrifice. Dr. Marston scoffed. No. Absolutely not. We gave the house its name. We endured its horrors. This was not part of the bargain. There was no bargain, Miel said. Only a wrong to be righted. And we righted it. But the house, it woke something else. The sigil of one burned brighter. Just for a moment. Just enough to flash its message. One must stay. One must pay. One must forget. Alaric rose to his feet, suddenly pale. I think it's giving us 3 choices. He looked around the room, slowly, deliberately. One of us must stay here, to become the house's memory. One must pay, likely in blood. And one must forget. He looked at Miel. If the memory is kept, the door stays open. But if we all leave, and all remember, the silence begins again. Isla's voice came quietly from behind him. Then it should be me. No, Alaric said instantly, turning to her. No? She gave you her name. You carry it. You can't be the one who forgets. Miel spoke next, calm and measured. If I stay, the house will try to finish what it started with me long ago. I won't survive another possession. Dr. Marston said nothing. He stood near the door, back stiff, breathing shallow. Alaric's eyes narrowed. You knew, he said. Marston flinched. You knew something more. Before this even started. You weren't just a skeptic, you were guarding something. Marston turned slowly, his hands clenched. I was one of the witnesses, he admitted. 12 years ago. When Yvran held the first séance with Julian. I wasn't just the family physician, I was the recorder. I wrote down the invocations. I helped bury the girl's name. Isla stepped back. You helped silence her. I thought she was unstable, Marston said bitterly. That she was a danger to herself and everyone around her. I thought helping Yvran erase her would protect the legacy. His eyes glazed over. I never thought she'd remember. The sigil on the floor began to bleed. A drop. Then two. Then it spelled out one word. Choose. Alaric turned to the others. I'll pay. No, Isla said, stepping in front of him. You already broke yourself to save me. Miel raised her hand. Then I'll forget. Let the house take my memory. I've seen too much. I've remembered too much. But the sigil pulsed again. 3 words now. Choose. Or I will. Suddenly, the chandelier fell. It missed them by inches, crashing to the floor with a shriek of crystal and iron. Flames burst upward and extinguished themselves immediately. The house was done waiting. Marston stepped forward. I'll stay. Everyone turned. I silenced her, he said. I sealed the memory. I recorded the lie. The cost should be mine. No, Isla said, eyes full of fury. That's not enough. You helped bury her, and now you think staying makes it right. Marston didn't argue. He walked to the center of the circle. And Saturday. The shadows of the chairs returned instantly. The floor groaned. The sigil of one flared to life beneath his feet. And then. The house sighed. As if relieved. Marston looked up at them one last time. But when he spoke, it was not with his voice. Let this be written. Let the name be kept. Let the silence sleep. And let the room forget, all but one. The walls relaxed. The chandelier reassembled itself. The ashes vanished. The piano played a final lullaby. And the door, fully open now, shimmered with sunlight. Alaric took Isla's hand. Miel followed behind them. And as they crossed the threshold, they did not look back. Because the room was watching. And it was finally content. Chapter 21, The Séance of One. The door to the east drawing room closed behind them with a sound unlike any door they'd ever heard. Not a click. Not a slam. But the slow, sorrowful creak of something ancient settling into its final shape. Alaric, Isla, and Miel stood just beyond the threshold in the east wing hallway. Behind them, the house fell into silence. Not emptiness, rest. The kind that only comes when memory is finally put to bed. But within the room, behind the door, one figure remained. Dr. Felix Marston. And the house knew him now. He sat in the chair at the center of the faded circle. Hands folded in his lap. Breath steady. Eyes forward, not afraid. Not defiant. Just waiting. A soft wind stirred the curtains, though the windows were closed. The chandelier flickered once, then went still. And then the whispers began again, not loud, not urgent, but curious. You were there. You wrote the lie. You held the pen that erased her. Marston didn't deny it. He simply spoke aloud, to no one and to everything. I remember now. The fireplace lit itself again. The shadows stretched up the walls, long, thin, elegant. They formed shapes, a cradle, a girl in a red coat, a boy laughing into a mirror. But they didn't move. They waited. Marston reached into his coat and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. His original notes. From the séance 12 years ago. He opened it to the first page. His own handwriting stared back at him. Julian Blackvale leads the invocation. Celaine is absent from the family record. Ran requests the circle begin without her. He stared at it. Then tore the page out. One by one, he tore every page, each lie, each omission, each redacted truth. Until only a blank book remained. He set it on the table. And whispered. I will write it again. Properly. This time, with her name. The house answered. The candle beside him lit. The ink in the inkwell turned black once more. The journal snapped shut on its own. But when Marston opened it again, he did not see his reflection. Instead, seated across from him at the now restored séance table, was Celaine. Older than the ghost girl they had seen. Whole. Human. Eyes soft with grief. Mouth unstitched. Wearing a dress of mourning lace and a necklace of red thread. She did not speak. She simply nodded. And he nodded back. He dipped the quill into the ink. Hands no longer shaking. And wrote. Séance of 1. The spirit answered. Her name was Celaine Blackvale. She was not mad. She was not cursed. She was forgotten. From the corners of the room, the mirrors reflected nothing but light. The floor grew warm with the morning sun. The painting above the hearth finally fell and did not rehang. It was over. Outside, Alaric paused on the manor steps. Isla beside him. Miel just behind. She turned once. And though she said nothing, Isla understood. The house would never be truly silent. But now it would remember for the right reasons. Not to imprison. But to witness. Back inside, Marston closed the journal. The fire was low. The room calm. And Celaine? She smiled. Just once. Then faded with the last of the candlelight. He was alone. And the séance had begun. Chapter 22, The niece makes her choice. Outside the manor, the storm had passed. Sunlight pierced the veil of clouds, pooling in golden shafts across the tangled grounds of Blackvale. But no birds sang. The wind refused to stir the overgrown hedges. And the manor, tall and watchful behind them, seemed to settle deeper into its foundation, as if bracing for one last name to be spoken. Isla stood at the foot of the manor steps, the cold earth beneath her boots still wet with rain. Her hair clung damp to her cheeks. The mirror she once carried, now shattered to ash, left a subtle imprint on her skin, as if its weight had never fully left. She did not move. She only stared up at the manor. At the window of the east drawing room. Where someone still watched. Alaric placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You don't have to go back in. I do, she said softly. Miel spoke from behind them. You've already done more than enough. You carried her name. You helped set her free. Isla shook her head. No. I carried her pain. I remember what it felt like. The silence. The weight of being erased. And now that the house has settled, now that it's listening. She turned to Alaric. I have to speak for the ones who never got to. Inside, Dr. Marston sat in silence. He no longer trembled. The journal rested in his lap, pages open, ink drying in careful lines. He was not writing anymore. He was waiting. The door creaked open. Isla entered the east drawing room, alone. The air no longer pulsed with the weight of memory. But it held something else now. Expectation. The fire was low. The mirrors veiled. The shadow of the séance still lingered, soft and smudged, like a fingerprint left on glass. And on the chair across from Marston, the last one untouched, waited for her. He looked up at her with hollow, unresisting eyes. "She's gone," he said. "But her name will remain. I made sure of it." Isla nodded slowly. "And now someone has to protect it." He offered her the journal. She did not take it. Instead, she moved to the fireplace. Above it, the fallen painting now leaned against the stonework, its canvas torn at the edges. She knelt and turned it face down, refusing to let the lie be hung again. Then, without hesitation, she removed the signet ring from her hand, the heir's ring, the Blackvale seal, and pressed it into the stone at the base of the hearth. "I don't want the name," she whispered. The house listened. The fire rose higher for a moment, then calmed. A wind moved through the room. The veils over the mirrors fluttered, then stilled. The candle that had refused to burn since the final circle quietly lit itself. And from the shadows in the corners, a whisper. "Not Celaine. Not the house. Just memory. You chose truth over legacy. So the house will remember your voice." Marston wept. He didn't know why. But the tears came as freely as breath. "Then it's finished," he said. Isla turned to him. "No." She walked to the desk, took up the quill, and opened the journal to a blank page. "I'm not going to erase the name. I'm going to write everything. What Evran did. What Julian hid. What the Blackvale line silenced for centuries." Marston whispered, "You'll burn for it." She smiled. "Then I'll burn brighter than they ever dared to." She began to write. And with every word, the manor sighed. Not from pain. From relief. Because for the first time in generations, someone was writing a story in Blackvale Manor that didn't end in forgetting. It ended in truth. The séance table faded. The circle of chairs vanished. And from the place where Celaine once stood, a single violet flower bloomed from the floorboard. A bluebell. A symbol of gratitude. Outside, Alaric and Miel turned from the manor, walking into the clearing light of day. They did not speak. Because they knew. Isla had made her choice. And the house would never forget her for it. Chapter 23, The Fire Beneath the Rug. The journal trembled as Isla wrote. Not from her hand, but from the room. The east drawing room had gone still, but not silent. There was a difference now. A tension, subtle and crawling, like breath held in the walls. Isla knew it wasn't over. Truth had been spoken. The name reclaimed. The séance ended. But something beneath the surface still shifted. As if the house had remembered one final secret it had hoped to forget. Dr. Marston rose from his chair with effort. His age showed all at once. The lines in his face deeper. The weight of memory heavier. "That was the last page," he said, gesturing to the journal. "What else do you mean to write?" Isla didn't look up. "I haven't written the beginning yet." Marston blinked. The beginning? Isla turned the journal back to page 1. Where a few drops of ash-black ink had already bled through. And there, faint, but still visible, was a name etched in mirrored script. One that hadn't appeared before. She read it aloud. The first fire was buried. A sound cracked through the silence. Like something splitting. They both turned toward the center of the room. The rug. The old, faded rug beneath the séance table. It had been there through every séance. Every summoning. Every betrayal. No one had ever removed it. Until now. Isla stepped forward. She took hold of one corner, its edges frayed and brittle from age, and pulled. Dust swirled. The smell of smoke rose immediately, not from the hearth, but from beneath the floorboards. As the rug peeled back, inch by inch, a shape revealed itself. A second circle. Etched into the floor in scorched iron, layered in soot and wax. The lines crude, primitive, carved with nails or bone. Unlike the refined sigils used by Alaric, this one was older. Wilder. And at its center, blackened scorch marks that spread outward like spider legs. Marston backed away. "What is that?" Isla didn't answer. She knelt beside it, running her fingers along the scorched grooves. There, within the outer ring, she found a name etched deeper than the rest. Celaine, but crossed out. Beneath it, another name. Ashvale. "Who's Ashvale?" she whispered. And the room answered. Not with a voice. With heat. The floor beneath them flushed warm. The walls began to sweat with condensation. The mirrors trembled behind their veils. From the fireplace, ash spilled out, slow, steady, curling into shapes like fingers reaching for breath. Alaric and Miel, now far down the path, stopped mid-stride. Alaric turned. "I feel it," he said. "Something's wrong. The house is stirring again." Mirel's expression darkened. "It's not Celaine this time." Back in the drawing room, Isla stood. The burned circle pulsed faintly under her feet. And then, from within the scorched iron ring, a sudden breath of fire erupted. But it wasn't flame. It was lightless heat. Dry, furious, ancient. And it whispered in a voice of soot and scorched wood. She was not the only one erased. The first fire still burns beneath. You gave her voice. Now give me my name. The mirrors shattered. All at once. But the shards did not fall. They hung in the air, spinning slowly, reflecting images not of the room, but of other fires. Other rituals. Other names. Ashvale. Evervale. Wyrm thought. Names that had never been spoken aloud in the Blackvale bloodline. Until now. Isla screamed as the heat swelled beneath her. The floorboards groaned. One split open. And beneath the boards, a stone trapdoor, bound in chains. A faint orange glow bled from the seams. She fell to her knees, panting, the journal pressed to her chest. This wasn't just about Celaine, she whispered. She was the seal. Mirel's voice came suddenly, from the doorway. No, she said. She was the sacrifice. Behind her, Alaric stepped into the room. The ash fell still. The heat paused. And then the voice came again. Deeper now. Not Celaine. Not the house. But something older. One name freed memory. One name freed fire. Now open the seal. Or let it burn beneath forever. Alaric's eyes met Isla's. You don't have to open it. I know, she said. But if we leave it closed, and we start all over again? A choice lay before them now. Not to exorcise. Not to banish. But to descend. To lift the seal and see what name had been buried before Celaine. The name no séance had dared speak. The one written in fire. Chapter 24, The circle breaks, or does it? The iron-bound trapdoor in the floor pulsed with a dull orange light, as if the embers beneath it had never truly died. The floorboards around it had blackened and split, spider-webbed with cracks. From beneath the stone, heat radiated, not like a firestorm, but a breath. A slow, waiting breath from something that had not spoken in centuries. And now, it whispered. You remembered her name. Now remember mine. Alaric crouched at the edge of the burned circle. His fingers hovered over the iron chains that sealed the trapdoor. Miel knelt beside him, eyes fixed on the scorched markings, some older than Blackvale itself. These aren't part of the séance tradition, she murmured. This is older. Pre-language. A memory sealed in ritual before ink existed. Isla stepped forward, the journal clutched tight in her arms. I saw it in my dreams, she said. But I always thought it was symbolic. The fire beneath the rug. The door no one walked through. But it's real. This isn't about Celaine anymore. Alaric looked up at her. You think this is where it began? Isla nodded. No. I think this is where everything else was buried. He touched the chain. It sizzled, but didn't burn him. He looked to Miel. If we open this, we don't know what we're unsealing, she replied. But the house has remembered enough to ask us to choose. Alaric turned to Isla. Her face was pale but resolute. Let it burn, and it consume someone else later, she said. Or open it now, and finish it ourselves. Marston spoke quietly from the far end of the room, his voice low and trembling. The first time I walked into this manor, Evran Blackvale showed me a sealed ledger. A family book that was missing its first dozen pages. When I asked, he told me the pages had been lost to fire. He looked up, hollow. Now I think he was lying. I think they were buried. Miel stood slowly and drew a circle of salt around the trapdoor, her hands moving with precision, her lips whispering words not meant for light. Then she stepped back. This seal isn't protecting the house, she said. It's protecting the world from the house. They looked to Isla. She knelt. Unwrapped the signet ring once more, the Blackvale seal. And pressed it into the lock. The chain snapped open. No scream. No wind. No fire. Just a hiss, like breath leaving lungs that had held for too long. She lifted the iron-bound door. And saw steps. A narrow stone stairway, spiraling down into a deep red glow. The scent of burned parchment, melted wax, old blood, and something sweet and foul, like incense offered at a cursed altar, drifted up to meet them. Miel handed Alaric a lantern. This wasn't part of the séance, she said. This was what they sealed before séances existed. A memory the house tried to forget. Alaric nodded grimly. And we're going to remember it. Together, they descended. Step by step. Past the foundation of the manor. Past the hidden catacombs of the Blackvale family line. Down into a rooted place where the earth itself seemed burned and stitched together again with ash. And then the chamber. It was round. Stone. Sealed. No windows. No exits. In the center, a circle, blackened and fused into the floor. Not drawn. Branded. And at its heart, suspended in the air, a ring of fire, burning without fuel, without smoke, without sound. Within it, a name. Not spoken. But felt. Not written. But carved into the breath of the room. Isla stumbled forward. Her knees buckled. I know this, she whispered. I've dreamed this fire. I've heard it say my name in the womb of sleep. Alaric clutched her arm. What name do you see? She opened her mouth. And the flame hissed. Ashvale. The circle cracked. A sound like glass breaking inside the bone. The floor groaned. The fire swelled. Miel shouted, "Step back." But Isla didn't move. She stepped forward, into the ring. And the fire did not burn her. It embraced her. Her body lifted slightly from the floor. Hair swept upward. Fingers outstretched. Eyes glowing faint gold. And then, she spoke in two voices. Her own. And one that had been buried beneath the house, beneath Celaine, beneath every ritual performed in forgetfulness. You sealed my fire. You built Blackvale on my bones. You crowned liars and silenced names. But the root was always mine. Alaric reached for her, but Miel grabbed his wrist. Let her speak, she said. This isn't possession. It's inheritance. The fire dimmed. Isla sank to her knees in the circle's center. And from behind her, a new voice echoed, not in rage, but in relief. The fire has remembered. And now the house may rest. The circle cooled. The fire vanished. And in its place, a single word remained burned into the floor. Ashvale. Isla rose, changed. Not haunted, but whole. Chapter 25, The house sleeps, but not alone. They climbed the stairs in silence. Each step up from the firelit chamber felt heavier than the last, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of memory restored. Of something vast and long buried finally unearthed, not to be exorcised, but acknowledged. The name Ashvale still echoed in Isla's chest, not as a curse, but as a second heartbeat. Not a ghost. Not a voice. A root. Something foundational, ancient, and utterly her own. Back in the east drawing room, morning light spilled in through the tall windows. The fire had burned down to coals. The chandelier swayed gently, as if rocked by a slow, steady breath. But the room no longer felt watchful. It felt full. As if every secret it once held had now been spoken aloud, and heard. Miel stepped to the hearth. Her fingertips brushed the stone where Isla had pressed the Blackvale ring. She whispered, so many stories buried under this floor. Not buried, Isla replied softly. Planted. Alaric stood beside her. His hand rested lightly on the journal they had carried through every room, every rite. It was closed now. Full. The last page written. But not by ink. The final line had burned itself into the leather cover. The house sleeps, but not alone. They turned toward the door. The air in the manor was calm, no longer heavy with unspoken names or blood-bound memory. For the first time, they heard the faint chirp of a bird outside. Life had returned. Or perhaps, it had been released. As they crossed the threshold, Isla looked back once. Just once. The room was unchanged. And yet, at the far end, beside the shuttered piano, sat the silhouette of a girl. Not Celaine. Not a ghost. Just a presence. She did not speak. She did not move. But she watched Isla go. And Isla understood. She wasn't saying goodbye. She was saying thank you. The front doors opened without resistance. The manor, once a sealed tomb, now exhaled into the cold morning air. And as they stepped outside, the sky opened fully, light pouring across the broken gardens, the old stones, the trees that had grown twisted from holding grief for too long. Dr. Marston waited just beyond the gates. He looked up as they approached, his face tired, but whole. Did it work? He asked. Isla smiled gently. The house sleeps. And the names? They're awake. They walked down the path together. 3 survivors. 3 witnesses. One house behind them, no longer haunted, but remembering. Not to hurt, but to guard. Because not all séances are meant to summon. Some are meant to write the dead back into the world. And as the manor doors closed on their own for the final time, the portrait above the fireplace turned to ash. And in its place bloomed a single bluebell. The last word of the séance. And the first word of peace.
The story may end here, but the darkness never sleeps. Like this video to keep the shadows stirring. Share your whispers in the comments. Your voice shapes the next nightmare. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Gothic Hour Stories and Mysteries, where every tale lingers and every soul leaves a mark. The Gothic Hour awaits.